If you're playing guitar 1 meter, about a yard, away from a real amp, your round-trip latency from your pick to the sound of the amp reaching your ears is around 3 milliseconds, so having a latency of 1 millisecond is really meaningless. This is a great question, and there's context to this, obviously. If you watch the recent Swolas, you know that I'm building a whole touring rig with drums and guitar and bass and all that, and I got an audio interface where I got the round-trip latency in Logic to 1 millisecond. I've really been looking for an audio interface where I can get the absolute least round-trip latency. And a lot of people are saying like, well, you know, you're not going to hear a difference between 1 millisecond and 3 milliseconds or even 5 milliseconds. You're too slow in your brain to comprehend that. And that's where I think that this comment is coming from, because he's basically saying that it's the same latency as if you would stand 1 meter in front of your amplifier in a cabinet, that 3 milliseconds wouldn't make a difference. Why I'm trying to get as low as a round-trip latency as possible to begin with is because for every piece of gear that you add to an equation, you add latency. So say that I'm playing guitar through Logic on my Mac with a round-trip latency of 1 millisecond to get my amplifier tone and all that out. That signal will then go into other equipment like in-ear monitoring, for instance, which also adds a little bit of latency because it's wireless and all that. Also, when you plug your guitar into a wireless system that I'm going to use, that also adds latency. So for every digital equipment that you add, you will add a slight bit of latency, and the sum of that latency can be terrible. So having a very good round-trip latency from the start and the get-go, it will make things a lot better. So you might say that 1 millisecond round-trip latency is overkill. In my opinion, it is not. As soon as you include other things into the equation, you know, you get a couple of milliseconds extra here and there. So I'm just trying to make it as fluent as possible for myself, and also explaining a little bit why it's so important to me. Okay? Did you guys understand that, or just you guys probably don't care? Hello!